All right, kitty. Be heading off. You got your mouse. You got your scratching post. You have your condo, and don't forget Whale Shark Tunnel. All right, 177,617 miles. It's 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a Monday, and we're gonna see if we can get this thing working. I finally fixed it. It's May 23, 2023. We're headed to Dallas. Linda is doing much better in her recovery, and it can take a very long time until someone becomes completely sober. It takes a very long time, but with the help of God, I'm hoping one day she won't even thirst beer or wine or any type of drug, and she'll be completely sober and clean. That's my dream for her. Welcome to the Please Subscribe Show with your host, moi, Cole Spivey, and we are on our way to Dallas. This is a trash dump right there on the very edge of Louisville, and I would pass by this almost every day when I first started working. Well, I worked for Uber, and then I eventually switched over to Uber Eats, and I went from Irving through Louisville to Carrollton to move in an apartment that I kind of wanted to show you guys. I don't know, it's got a special place in my heart because that's where I started p.s.s, which is the Please Subscribe Show, which I just shortened to Please Subscribe Show. It gives you guys something to do, you know. Please subscribe. I thought about it. I watched a lot of different vloggers like Adam the Woo, Jordan the Lion. I don't really know if Scott on Tape at that time. Scott on Tape is someone that I'm watching now. He does kind of like special shows about true crime, everything to pop culture, you know, and there's other ones as well. But I think what I ended up doing was I wanted to make a feature film eventually. I wanted to try to make some short films. And so I started all with writing scripts from the Irving place and plays and things like that. So when I started launching songs, I guess it started first with songs. I started launching songs onto SoundCloud, which was a big mistake because later on I'd drop my $17 subscription and lose all the storage. I don't know if they keep the storage if you go back and subscribe to the SoundCloud again. But I had like 600 posts for SoundCloud because that's what the number said. It was like 600 and something. And I think there were like, sometimes I would do an original song like 10 or 20 times. So I did the math and everything. It comes to roughly, if I did a song 10 times or whatever, it comes to roughly like 60 songs or something. If I did like 10 takes of one song. But I also did storytelling on SoundCloud, and I did play readings, and I even got a cast of actors through Backpage, and they even like showed up to my place at Cleanest Ranch in Irving, and we did the reading, and we did it right on SoundCloud through the Zoom microphone. It's a Zoom microphone. It's like a filmmaking microphone. I was doing that for a while, and then I think eventually before that I was doing commercials. Like I was auditioning for commercials for like Whataburger, McDonald's. Some of them were like historical bios about, you know, the history of McDonald's, or the founder of McDonald's, or the founder of Whataburger, Herman Dobson kind of stuff. So I talk about Herman Dobson and the two-handed burger, because I auditioned for a lot of those kinds of things. And Angel was with me at the time, so she would help me, and we would set up the camera and the tripod and everything. And the kids would be kind of running in the living room or whatever, and there'd be a moment where everyone would have to be quiet, and then I would do the audition and send it out. I think unlisted is how they had us do it on audition. So they would send it unlisted and it would go out. So I got kind of in a rhythm of doing that. And then with SoundCloud, it was kind of a creative outlet where I'd write the song and then I would send it up. And eventually I was doing YouTube, and Angel sat down with me and she said, you know, no more YouTube. And so I limited it, and I was working heavily with Uber, because I was working at a bank for about, I don't know, I guess 4 years. It was First National Bank, Texas. It's a Fort Hood bank. It's a military bank. It has a military. I'm gonna show the apartment. I've shown the apartment a few times. You can see it on the PSS. It's over this way, but it's a military bank. That's been around since like 1900s or something, like 1910 or something. It's been around for a long time. A lot of times people feel like they're vampires that run that bank, because it's been around for more than 100 years. It's also known as Fort Hood Bank. Like, I think the official name, they call it, one of the official names is First National Bank, Texas. And then I think a lot of the in-store banks, they say First Convenience Bank is what the name is on it. Well, we eventually moved, well, at that time when I was working heavily at the bank, we lived at a place called, right off West Rochelle. It was a house. And the house that we were living in, there was a letter that was read from my pastor, Josh Smith, explaining that one of the members had gone off and committed, had cheated on the husband and got pregnant with the spiritual leader of the church named Tim. And he was ostracized and excommunicated from the Baptist church. And Josh read the letter that came from, I guess, a woman that confessed to Josh. And I have my theories about everyone at that church, this is MBBC, and if all of them were actually faithful. And I don't think they were. But it was a big ordeal. I was not there at the church at the time when the letter was read, but Angel had come back to, I guess it was, we were still at the apartment, I think at 1038 at Steeplechase, and she had told me about what the letter said. And I was very distraught, and I said, that's pretty strange. And that they would read it, because they said in the Bible that if it continues, then you bring it forward through the church. So that went on, and over time, I guess because it sunk into my brain, I decided I wanted to leave that church. I'm sorry, it's just what I decided. And I wanted to go to IBBC because I had presented a screenplay to one of the church leaders called Sparkplug. And it was based on Alex Kendrick's Flywheel. I think it was also called Sparkplug and a Flex Plate, because a flywheel and a flex plate are very similar. And I thought, okay, we'll do a version, like a Dallas version. And one of the characters was called Dally. And it was like, an homage to Dallas and things like that. And Art Bunting, who had worked with Richard Linklater His son had worked with Richard Linklater. Art told me no. He said he wasn't interested and he didn't want to invest anything. So I was very hurt. So I told Angel, and I said, well, listen, we're going to IBC. And listen, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't perfect, but I have to admit, at the time when I was at that church, I was faithful to Angel at that time. But I was not perfect. I was not like flesh free. I wasn't the spirit, I had my dents in me, I had my problems. So those are things I had to take to God, and those are things I've asked for forgiveness. And God has forgiven me because God forgives. God does forgive. God is the ultimate incarnation of forgiveness. So the next step was to go to IBC. That was Irving Bible Chapel. I heard about it through a drama group. It was a Puritan Productions. It was a Christian drama group run by a woman named Margaret Z, who happened to be from, her ancestry is from, I think, Hong Kong. She was part of the Hong Kong Ballet. So she started this Christian drama group, and we were with them for 3 or 4 years. They did pay money, so they did help us. Angel and I were able to go to different vacations with the amount of money they paid us and stuff, but it wasn't a whole lot. But they did pay us to be a part of the production. Okay, one of the members told me about IBC, which is Irving Bible Chapel. And so I told Angel, I said, listen, I don't feel comfortable. Now, Josh Smith, who spoke before Congress, he's a pastor. He spoke before Washington, D.C. Congress. He also prayed with them. He left. His wife got cancer, and they overcame it. The whole church prayed for her. Thank goodness she survived it. And what ended up happening was Josh decided to leave and go to Georgia. So they left at Bogart, Georgia to start the Prince Avenue, or not to start, but to continue the Prince Avenue Baptist Church. MacArthur Boulevard Baptist has a huge history. It's around like almost since very heavily in the 60s. I'm saying heavily a lot, but they were well known in the 60s as starting an established Baptist church in Irving. So they were becoming known as a church in the 1960s through another pastor. And he has his own book and everything. Josh came in after that other pastor, and then I think he was there, I want to say maybe 10 years or something. I don't know the exact time, but he ended up leaving. And Ricky Primrose took over, and he is the current pastor who has his own channel on Apple, iPod, if you want to listen to it. He's helpful. He's not perfect. None of us are perfect, but he was helpful with me dealing with Angel. Angel was born with, there goes the squirrel right there. Angel was born with spina bifida. So we did have 3 children. So us to even have a child was a miracle. Why I tell this story about Josh Smith and Ricky Primrose and MacArthur Boulevard Baptist Church is not because I'm trying to be power hungry, or I'm not trying to get revenge. I'm just trying to tell you the story. But regardless, Josh left, and Ricky took over as pastor. It was voted, and he took over as pastor. And Angel was not doing good and had to go to the ER more often. We already had our 3rd child, so we had 3 children. And Gwendolyn was born, and we moved. We were not able to secure the house. We lived in a house on West Rochelle. We were not able to get the house. We were $20,000 short of getting the house for the bank approval. We even tried Rocket Mortgage. We tried every type of mortgage you could think of. I was even going to try the mortgage that I worked for at the bank, and they all said no. So then we moved to Cleanest Ranch, where our neighbors were kind of mean to us. They threw Chinese food on our windshield on our car. The neighbor's son would flip me off, and one of the kids upstairs was threatening to knock me out and all this stuff. So I had to get in touch with the Irving police, and they said they can't do anything. So eventually we probably decided that we were going to leave that place. And then I asked Angel at one time, I said, because the air conditioner was not even really working, I asked for an air conditioner for Margaret Z. She said she couldn't help. because of her condition, because of the fact that she was born with spina bifida and had neurocardiogenic syncope, that, you know, maybe she should go to her mom's. And because it, you know, that place was just very hot. And eventually, I decided to leave the church, MacArthur Boulevard Baptist. I withdrew my membership and decided to move to, we were going to move to IBC. We were going to basically go to IBC, which is Irving Bible Chapel. And I told Ricky. Ricky said I removed the membership because I got upset with Art because he did not want to help me with my project that I was writing, which was called Sparkplug, which is based on Flywheel. And Art Button, who has a Catholic background, had worked, or his son had worked with Richard Linklater. So his son had connections with filmmaking. And I asked him, since I had gone to the New School University and Actor Studio Drama School, that I could be that part of that church for MacArthur Boulevard Baptist Church, that I could be a part of the film and media department, and that I can try to make this evangelical film that Alex Kendrick successfully did, which was called Flywheel, but we were going to call it Sparkplug. And they said, they were not going to agree. So I was upset with Art, and I made a post on Facebook saying that he didn't treat the poor very well, is basically what it said. I didn't say it exactly that way. I got in trouble for that, and then I removed the post because Angel and I were poverty-stricken. So that's how that went. And then I came home from doing rideshare, and everyone was gone. Now, she had already left for 2 weeks and stayed with a guy named Rotella and his wife, Rachel. It was Andy and Rachel Rotella. She stayed with him for like 2 weeks, and then she came back, and that's when she had Gwendolyn, her third child. Then she decided to basically leave a little bit after that, and she took the kids and left, which I don't agree with. I don't think it's right. And I don't think the church would agree with that happening. But that's what she did. I guess because life is never perfect. And I don't know if that was a kingdom-minded thing. But that's what happened. I can't blame. I don't know if the pastor told her to leave, because the pastor was going to bring, the pastor wanted my kids to stay at his place. And I felt shaky about that because the pastor's son had broken a bone. And I didn't want David to be jumping on their trampoline, things like that. They had a trampoline or something in the backyard. So that happened. And so I was going to ask for Ricky and Megan, or at least Megan, to bring the kids over to my place, and they could help Angel by doing that. And they could come over to our place, which is kingdom-minded, because our place was Cleanest Ranch, where you can spread the gospel and evangelicalism, meaning you can spread the word of God by doing that. They were not agreeing with me. They were not helping me. They were not helping me. So eventually I came back, and she was gone. She had took all the kids. And a great movie to compare a lot of this to is The Apostle. But I think that sometimes movies can go too far and they're too radical. You still have to follow the word of God and listen to his kindness, and you have to be kingdom minded. And so you have to do what he says, because God is ultimately in control. And that's what now I did ask to be the pastor there, because it would have been helpful, because I would have made the money that Angel and I needed to get our own house and have our own privacy. And the church just refused and refused and refused. And I don't think that church is always completely kingdom minded, but they certainly are trying to be. Now we continue the story. And finally I was on my own. So Angel left with the 3 kids. She refused to come back. I contacted the Irving Police Department. They said they were aware that she had contacted them to let me know so I wouldn't panic. And eventually I left Cleanest Ranch, and I moved on to a place called Mansions at Sunset Ridge, which is in Carrollton. It was a very nice place. I had my own garage. I lived there, and I did rideshare. I did Lyft, and eventually I did Uber Eats, and then got into like DoorDash and Postmates and things like that. So I did that for a while, and I think it was a total of 12 months or a year, and then an extra month. And then out of nowhere, I get a phone call from a lady named Linda. And that was in, I believe, April of 2020, because Angel left in March 9th of 2019. So it was almost, it was working on 14 months or so. It was just after a year. So anyway, I decided to start my own show, which is the Please Subscribe show, which is TPSS, and Linda would be there to help. And we have been struggling, and I think ultimately she has been struggling with alcoholism for the entire time I've known her. So for 3 years. But when I first met her, she was having a problem where it was 15 beers a day. And that can kill you. So I decided to jump on board and start praying with her and sharing her struggle with you so that you could pray with her and that we could be witnessed. Not only unto the eyes of the Lord, but unto everybody that's professional out there that can help with these situations, that could get in touch with us, that could help Linda become sober and reach sobriety. Linda lives with a man named Dustin who had a problem with alcoholism. I don't know his situation now. He was stricken with cancer and did have to go in to have that, to doctors and things like that. So he did have a problem, and we asked for prayers for that too. I don't know Dustin's situation. Like, I don't know if he's sober. I don't seek that or anything. But I do know that God intervenes with alcoholism. God makes a decision to put his foot down when it comes to alcoholism, and he does everything to help. Because in the Bible it says to have wine is a blessing, to be drunk is a curse. So it's a curse to be drunk. John the Baptist chose not to go with any strong drink to honor the Lord. That was John the Baptist, his mission, which he, fulfilled unto his last breath. John the Baptist was pretty strict about it, about alcoholism and things like that. All right, so I just wanted to log that. I'm not blaming Ricky Primrose. I'm not blaming Josh Smith. I do have anger in my heart, and not only alcoholism, but sometimes I don't understand the aspect of why wives, are not always perfectly forgiving about certain things. But I know that God has sent me. I know that Ricky would say, you are sent. He would always say that at the end of a sermon. He said, you are sent. One of my best friends growing up was actually Jewish. I'm Baptist. There's a congregation. That might be it. Yep, that's it. That's the one Foster Harrington went to. He went to this Jewish temple right there. I saw his brother's bat mitzvah there. Everything happens for a reason. But that's where his brother Jason went through bar mitzvah. And I went there, and there was wine and stuff like that. I think we had like a little sip of wine. And for a young Baptist kid to have a sip of wine at a Jewish temple, But Foster was my friend. I met him in remedial reading. Miss Davis class. She told the class, she said, we want you to remember, or she told the class to remember my name. Think of Miss Betty Davis's eyes, or Miss Davis's eyes. This is Miss Davis's. Remedial reading. I'm sorry. What I do is I jump over a word. I take a word and I just butcher the word. Remedial reading. It was when we were taught to read better and more carefully, which I need to do way more reading. I've been trying to kind of study Corinthians in little chunks, Corinthians, the epistle. But Foster lost his life in the second tour. He has the first tour, he came back, and then the second tour, he was in the United States Marine Corps, he lost his life. I don't know the details. I was told by a lady named, Lori Ann, she was a neighbor of my mom's. She was a young girl that was friends with Foster. And she got in touch with me when I was substituting, and she was doing like office work at the school. And so she said, you know, Foster lost his life, or, you know, Foster died in the war in Afghan, or Sunni Triangle, I think is where it was. That's the only information I got. That was it. I didn't get any other specific detail. He does have a website to remember him, but he's no longer with us. And I think that was the temple that his brother was baptized in, or not. I'm not baptized. I'm sorry. The bar mitzvah. Sorry, those words are very close. Baptism and bar mitzvah. But anyway, we'll talk about all that later. I've done a show on it. All right. So we did pick up one at 7-Eleven. Most likely it's a cigarette run for Marlboro cigarettes. I don't condone cigarette. I mean, what am I saying? Not condone. I'm sorry. I don't appreciate cigarette smoking. I used to smoke cigarettes for 6 years. I was able to quit smoking. I prayed with a Vietnam vet in Maine, and he told me that cigarettes were darkness. And he had this prayer. I guess he's prayed with other people about nicotine and cigarettes, and I was able to quit overnight. And I was smoking for 6 years. It was over prayer. And it happened in a place called Parkman, Maine. I wrote about it in Escape from Maine. It was a story about me escaping the north and coming back to the south. His name was Chris. He's known as a Sabbath keeper. He found Jesus Christ in the trenches of Vietnam. Okay? And he turned his life over to Jesus Christ. And when I met him, he found out I was smoking. I was smoking American cigarettes. He prayed with me. It was a prayer about darkness and how cigarettes are darkness, and that he wanted me to come into the light and get rid of it. And it was a great prayer. The next day, cigarettes made me feel sick. I just could not stand them. And so I stopped smoking. I threw some of the cigarettes away in like a pond. And I threw some of the cigarettes away in a toilet. I don't know if I did all that in Escape from Maine. Yeah, I think I did a little bit of it. I tried flushing some of the toilets down a toilet. I threw some of it like in a pond. And then I threw some of them away in like it was like a dumpster over a period of about a week. I relapsed 15 months later, and I was reading a book, and I started smoking out of nowhere. I met this lady in Maine. She had 2 kids, and I smoked for about off and on for about a month. And then I said no more. I decided to leave Maine, and I ran from those cigarettes, and I have not touched a cigarette since 2013, right before I met Angel. I think it was Angel and I met in May. March, April, May. Yeah, May of 2013. No cigarettes since that day. So it's been pretty much a decade. It's been a decade. 10 years, not one cigarette. Not one. That's an accomplishment. 10 years. I've been around them, but not smoking. Because Linda has a slight problem smoking. She's saying that she's having a pain in her stomach, and I'm thinking, I don't know if we're having a child or what's going on. But if so, I hope she quits smoking and drinking. I hope you pray. Thank you, Lord. Since Linda Lee Gray, also known as Linda Spivey, since she is having pain in her stomach, now we know why we watch the borders between Texas and Mexico. Because women will be stopped at the border of Mexico and placed in handcuffs at the border of Mexico. Her name is Linda Lee Gray. She was born in the first part of her birthday. We all know when her birthday was. March 11th. Always remember it as 3/11. Remember when I used to do this? So we're going to watch the borders of Mexico. And we're all going to grow up, not weed. okay? We're all going to learn to grow up and be adults. And stop pointing your finger at me to grow up and watch that border of Mexico. Because women are going to be placed in handcuffs on that border of Mexico. Because the government is informed. And we are in control of Texas. Welcome to the New Liberty Party. This app does push you around a little bit, so don't fear or anything. This is actually 6 miles. We'll be there in 17 minutes, 12:43. A movie that I do want to review is a movie called Locke. Tom Hardy did the movie. It is a very good movie, okay? It deals with similar things, similar to what we're going through. Now, I want to talk about money, okay? In the New Liberty Party, we know that your money is an illusion. We're going to what's called a cashless society. So the money that you have is an illusion. So go look at your bank account, okay? Go over and open a bank account app and look at it. Now, it says $1 million, doesn't it? It's an illusion. Because I've met people that have millions of dollars. My dad was a millionaire. But here's the thing. Because I know this guy that was part of the oil company. And I would say, well, hey, you know, I got this project, this film project, blah, blah. He says, well, it's not my money. That's right. Any millionaire, even billionaire, would tell you that it's not that money. Now, what would a pastor say? A pastor would say, well, it's all God's money. Nope. God doesn't need money. Jesus Christ and God does not need money. When we go to heaven, we're not going to be exchanging money to get in. They're not going to let you in heaven if you have a lot of money, right? Your money is an illusion. So as a New Liberty Party, we're going to redefine money. This country is. We're going to take a new avenue towards money. That's how we're approaching it. We're not approaching it the way Hamilton did. When Hamilton took over, well, he didn't take over, but he was in charge of the federal banks. We're going to reissue all the aspects of what our mind thinks about money. We're going to reissue it. And we're going to have a whole new concept of what we think money is. And all of a sudden, a billionaire is going to wake up and go, I see. I understand what it is now. Because that billionaire is not going to be a billionaire at all. He's not going to need to. We're going to do a thing that has a lot to do with credits. If you look at Drooble, it does a thing called karma points, okay? That's like a credit. And you do nice things and you do good things to other people, you get what's known as karma points. Well, in society, if you go off and let's say you're a doctor and you perform an abortion, then you go to prison, right? Because you did a bad thing. So say, I'm going to go and give a woman an abortion, especially in the state of Texas, then you go to prison and so does the woman. Does it look like I'm lying? You get an abortion, you go to prison. Now, let's say you're a man with a lot of money. Let's say you sell all these drugs and you make a lot of money. A certain person, right? That we may know. And let's say you have all this power and everything. And you take that woman to the clinic in Mexico. Both of you go to prison, right? You go to Mexico to get that abortion. Both of you go to prison. They'll look at everything behind the aspects of the abortion. They're going to look at everything. They're going to look at, first of all, the woman that goes to get the abortion, she'll be arrested. The doctor will be arrested as well for performing the abortion. And the man the spiritual guy, the man behind it, or more like the devil, the spirit of the devil, that man that's behind it, that's taking her to get her the abortion, he'll go to prison as well. Finally found it, the 7-Eleven with your Marlboro cigarettes. I'm just going to park over here. I don't know where I went for the first 20 minutes of talking about The Handmaid's Tale, or at least a version of it. So if I don't recognize the song, then I don't consider it copyright. Because there's some songs out there that are not copyrighted that people use. These are kind of cool. Trying to go to a 0.13 millimeter on a selfie. They'll have it though. It's not bad right there. It's known as Evoke. exposed stuff there doesn't bother me. Let's see. I have no idea. I'm assuming $2,000 a month. I have no idea. I wonder if it is Christian. It's certainly a hint. Certainly a hint. Courtyard's right here. Let's see, let's peek into the courtyard. Oh, wow. This is, I don't know if I'll get locked in or locked out. No, that's fine. Okay. They have a golf course. Well, it's a putt course. And then they've got your grill. They've got your golf course thing and play stuff for the dogs. Of course, I don't know if the dogs would poop on the putting thing. That's their courtyard. Courtyard is what they call it. I gotta remember these things. Learn stuff every day, but they call it a courtyard. It's in the middle of the they call this. This is not that bad. It's certainly not Fort Worth. There's a big difference between Fort Worth and Dallas. St. Andrew. Hey, stranger.
Where were you at?
Where was I at?
Yeah, where were you at?
I was down the road. Here, give me a hug.
What do you mean you were down the road?
I was right over here. All right. Well, we're back with Linda, and we're going to explore Willow Bend Mall, and they have a Spencer's, and we've done a Spencer's vlog, so check it out on the channel. It got a lot of attention. And welcome to the Please Subscribe show.